Hello world. Frida Reva Darcy and Patricia O'Connor here. There was my finger. You know that it's me, and it's really a Frida cartoon. This is a beautiful day today. It is quite warm, probably upper 60s or better. As you can see, my cypress trees are looking bald. That's the name. They lose their leaves in the winter, which is I think why they're called bald cypresses, because they lose all their foliage. So these guys are well and truly dormant, but it is also already in its 60s. I would say sometime between. I mean, it's not like it's huge rush. It's winter, right? But on the other hand, if we have a couple of 70-degree days in there, stuff will start budding out. So we're gonna the getting's good. Also, this was just a really great time to I'm mounting the camera right now on a tripod while I'm talking to y'all. This is a really good time to make branch selection. Most of the we did this somewhat last year, and some of that stuff vipricated off. And as it vipricated off, some of it is keepers and some of it not so much. So we're gonna measure one against the other and see kind of what we have, see how that worked out for us. And the tools that I have to do this today, I've got my favorite scissors. These are Japanese steel scissors. I have my Nip-X pruners, which I don't see me needing over once, if at all. And then I have my stainless scissors. I mentioned before that these are my favorite ones, and these are not as much. But I never really went in to why. It's not that they're stainless. I think stainless tools are cool. You don't have to worry about working on your trees outside and having it rain or something. Sometimes I put olive oil on these to make sure that they don't rust up on me. And some people are thinking that stainless doesn't keep a really good edge. I have seen stainless be too sharp to check. I mean, it was just like it's going to draw blood if you go anywhere near it. It was so sharp. So that wasn't. What I don't like about these is it is possible to cut something in such a way as to get yourself a blood blister in a way that never happens with a more thought out, well-designed tool. Otherwise, these guys are stainless and they have a lifetime guarantee. I think sometimes when something has a lifetime guarantee, it's because the company knows it's well made, it's going to stand up. And sometimes it's kind of like, yeah, we can make 4 of them. So if they have a problem with one, we'll just give them another. And that's kind of my thought behind. That's why to hold these is to know that these are a really high quality, hard steel, holds a good edge. It's got a little engraving in there where it says what's up in Japanese. The action here on the rivet, very tight, which gives them a really good shearing action. These guys are a little loose. It's almost like if I had a nut on this side, I'd be trying to tighten it. Anyway, that's about all I'm going to go on the scissors. But they're both good for working here, and these are also good for down low whenever you're cutting stuff that might have dirt or going into the roots or something. So let's get started. The idea here is, I don't know how well you can see this, but this is a branch that we cut off. To this point last year, we decided that this was going to be a keeper. And so when we cut it, it bifurcated off in 2, and it did that just pretty much the way we wanted. This one does look a little thick to me. So between the 2, I am going to cut this one back shorter, and I'm going to let the skinnier one go a little longer. Also, let's say here. Also, the idea is not to cut them off even. We don't want to be uniform about trying to be uniform. So that's that. That's our start there. This branch in between these two guys, this is something that came up last year. Last spring when the tree started flushing out, we let almost everything that it wanted to flush out stay, knowing that this time would come around and we would make decisions as to what we were keeping. And this branch, for instance, an idea about keeping that might have been because this maybe looks too big or too blocky, and it does look kind of big and kind of blocky, but it's still doing okay. And I'm going to use the longer clippers here, and we're going to keep it. It's a keeper. Now sometimes last year's or this year's branch, we might decide for some reason or another that we like this year's branch better than last year's branch. But when we make that decision, we give up a year of bifurcation. I don't know how well you can see this, but this side did nothing, and this side grew really heavy, and the main branch that it's attached to grew really heavy. So I'm not totally thrilled with anything that happened to this branch after we decided this time last year that it was a keeper. So for that reason, this is one of them that I'm gonna go with some bigger cutters. I'll clean it up. I'll clean it up with my bonsai tools if I have to, but for right now, I'm going in there and take this guy out. I also like to use these whenever I have a tree that's still got a lot of wire on it. That does make it kind of handy to have those, have those in your back pocket so that you can use those instead of cutting something with your tips. All right, now since we've cut that, this is going to this and this are going to keep us from being too sad about losing that. This branch also that you can't see, it's directly behind. It looks like it would be a keeper, but it's too close to this one. So the reason I let all of these guys go last year when I knew that they were new branches right next to branches that we had already started some history with is because we have a lot of rollover to achieve. We have a lot of mass to make, and we're going to do all of those things by making a whole lot of shoots and then chopping them back so that they can bifurcate often more. And even the stuff that we were pretty sure that at the end of the day we weren't going to keep, it still made sense to carry all that on and let it establish all that photosynthesis and make all that sugar and make all that stuff, throw all that stuff down there in the roots, and as soon as that stuff starts snapping, we come in and start making choices as to what stays and what goes. Also the hat. The sun is just going around the corner now, but this is actually in the fall more important because you get hit more directly in the face with the sun as it comes lower in the sky in the fall years. So, okay. Keeping this guy, keeping that guy. It's going to look a little bare after this. So kind of what I've been doing is where I get these little slingshot shapes, which is our first year of bifurcation. That's our secondary branch work. That's like year 2, yay. What I've been doing is one of them is going to almost always be fatter, and the fatter one I cut off shorter. So, which is to say that the longer one, the skinnier one, I'll let go a little longer. So that maybe next year that'll even out a little, or we'll just throw a little bit the other way. Or, the idea is we don't want to see anything too bulbous or fat up in the top of the tree. That could probably have gotten pruned back a little closer. On some trees, we would be looking at all of our bud sites. On cypress trees, it's not something, I don't know, I'm hoping that's in focus. It's not something that you have to worry about, really like making close. Just know that there are many, many, many bud sites in there. All those little bumps could be, and every once in a while, you will see a cypress just bush out so prolifically that it kind of looks bizarre, like, you know, it kind of is saying you probably should do something. And I wonder if that is where it doesn't tell a few of its sprouts to shoot out. It tells them all to hit the ground running, so to speak. And I tend to kind of wonder if something happened to shock the tree to make it do that, or is that a symptom of being fed a lot? I should probably put the other scissors down so I'm not so clumsy. Anyway, I haven't figured out, but you will every once in a while if you look at enough of these guys online. Every once in a while, you'll just see one that is just solid, thick with shoots. It's like every bud site on the tree exploded in spring. And I'm like, how are you supposed to manage that? That looks like a hairy-legged, you know, I don't know how you're supposed to manage that. But I was often wondered whether or not that was a result of overfeeding, or was it in shock and trying to save off what it thought was a heavy pruning? What was going on there? That was one thing. But I haven't seen these guys do anything quite like that yet, which I'm thankful about. Should probably wait to go any further. At some point, I'm going to tip the camera down and have a seat and work the bottom, so I probably shouldn't get too far into that. All right, we did get rid of, yeah, we can go with this guy. That wasn't a bad, actually, between this limb, and this limb, I'm going to keep the middle one, the smaller one of the three. Now, you've seen me chop a couple of larger branches with these bolt cutters with my nip axe. I will have to go back through with my hybrid cutters and clean up these stubs, and then I will probably also throw a little cut paste to that. Timber. Yeah, I've got some cleanup to do there. That's okay. We kind of did that fine. We kind of did that okay. We'll just do this and call this one tree down until I sit down. Okay, now it's not a bad start. And this one has, you know, I've got that wedge-shaped cut out of there. That was pretty exciting little chop when I did that. Also, I learned about robbing too much energy out of a tree by doing my dawn redwood a little too much. So when it came time with these guys, I was already a little better behaved. I didn't do as much heavy pruning to these guys. I just kind of let them, I would style them. The first two years that I had this tree, when they start filling out and they've got all that green, lacy, beautiful foliage, you kind of don't see all the chops, and you can actually sort of decorate it. I like the energy coming up this side of the trunk, so I'm going to leave these guys for a little longer than I probably normally would. So the first couple of years, I would kind of do cuts on the foliage like it was a finished tree, and just so I could stand back and look at it, knowing that it wasn't a finished tree. But if you look at it at a certain angle, you don't see all the chops, and it was, I don't know what I'm doing now. I'm cutting this back here. It was very rewarding to see that, but also that comes at the expense. The stuff that you cut back to style it is the stuff that is going to make that it needs to make in order to get the ramification out of the tree that's going to be important to you. And the more you cut off the tree, the longer it's going to take to make to turn this into this, and to turn this into this, to turn these into those shapes, and to do all that rollover. We need a lot of reinforcements for that, and that's the stuff that you tend to leave laying on the floor at the end of spring. If you see your pre-bonsai is starting to look a little bonsai-like, and you just want to get a little scissor happy and spruce it up, you do that at the expense of. Now, having said that, when you watch other bonsai growers, it depends. Are these trees in their private garden and they're developing them, or are they in their commercial bonsai garden? Sometimes the answer to why somebody is doing something is they want it to look really nice before the tourists get there. And you will hear them say things like, never cut the needles on your pine, never cut the needles on your pine. But they know that just as sure as a bus full of tourists are about to unload in front of their store, if they've got one sitting there with a little pixie cut that they've just given it, that'll be the first one sold. And they see that happen enough times that you'll see them do it while they're telling you not to do it. And that's the difference, I think. Also, I don't think it necessarily kills your pine to cut the needles, but that's just an example of sometimes we're learning from people who are doing things sometimes for aesthetic reasons, and sometimes for reasons, the reason somebody is doing something is because it's an okay way to go, and I've got 10,000 more to do before I get off work today. And that's not necessarily the way they would do it if they had one in their backyard and they have a little bit of time before dinner in the afternoon and a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So, sometimes that's the motivation. There could be many reasons and many different motivations for the different techniques that people have. And yeah, probably somewhere somebody reduces the branch of their bonsai tree so that they'll have less to water, and no more reasons than that, Did hear another good lesson that I think I would pass along, because at my stage of the game, this is still a possibility. If you are, if you've got something wired and you're bending it and you're bending it and you're bending it, you can get away with it when you feel a little crack. That's a good time to stop. But if you went too far and it splinters out and breaks here, snap. Like for instance, it goes snap, and you're like, oh, holy crap. The tendency is to grab it and try to put it back. It's too late. That already happened. When you do what I heard, and I heard it on 2 different videos, so I'm thinking there's probably something to it. They were both Japanese black pine growers. They said when it snaps, you're probably going to get dry out, which is the translated YouTube version of die out or death. And I think they were saying that, you'll probably see a vein that is associated with that snap. And they said, when you see that snap, don't touch it. You will see some dry out or die out. When you put it back, the whole branch is lost. Putting it back kills the other half. So I have done that. I have seen a tree that I moved out on the bench at night, and then when I came to look at it the next morning, I could